Well, the story that we know as the parable of the rich fool certainly sounds like an ideal story to open a conversation about stewardship. Relax. It'll be fine. We'll get through this together. Don't worry. You might be thinking to yourself, though, who's going to talk about stewardship during the summer? I mean, it's the middle of the summer. It's a long weekend. What would be the point in talking about stewardship? Because you're thinking right away, I'm going to talk about money. Or wait, as we traditionally describe it now in the church, we talk about money and talents and time, right? Or money, time, and talents. That sounds like more lyrical. Let's say it that way. Money, time, and talents. Okay, but surely we are getting to the point now where we understand stewardship a little bit differently and we're a little bit less scared of having to hear about it. Because invariably in the past, it's meant that when we talk about stewardship, it means I'm going to ask you to increase what you give to the church, both financially, which, by the way, would be a really good idea, in terms of the time that you give the church, which, by the way, would be a really good idea, and the talents of yours, the gifts of yours that you share with the church, which would be a really good idea. It would definitely be a good idea to increase all of those things. It always is. The thing is, the increasing that kind of goes without saying, because that's always going to be the case. It is, because that's life, right? That's how it works. The thing is, I think we need to stop saying you need to give that stuff to the church, and instead start asking you if you know why you do and what it's for. There was a time when we could say, you should give money to the church, and you would immediately assume, yes, that would be a good thing because the church does good things. A lot of the time. But the thing is, if we leave it there, what does that mean? What does that mean? Do you know when you give money to the church, do you know what it does? When you give your time to the church, do you know what it really does? When you give the gifts of your skills and ideas and creativeness to the church, do you know what it really does? Because it absolutely does more than maintain these wonderful buildings that we have, these facilities that we have. It does more than, let's be blunt, pay me and staff. And the thing about that is, even then you're probably going, oh yes, of course, we know people use the building. It's important for it to be cared for because people in the community use the building. Yes, that's true. It's important to pay the minister because the minister does stuff. Do you know what? It's important to pay staff because they do so. Well, we pay someone to clean, right? Because we have to take care of the building. And we pay somebody to be in the office and do administrative stuff and do bookkeeping and things like that, right? Yes. Do you know what that does, though? That is not the end point of any of that. And there's a point where I think when we start talking about stewardship, we have to stop talking about how much you need to give and start talking about why you are. And more importantly, why you should. Because we need to be able to connect those things. You need to be able to connect things that you are passionate about and believe in to what it is you are supporting, whether that's financially or with your time or with your talents. You do. And two things about that. Number one is, it's great to know, for example, that when you give money to the church, it doesn't just keep the building open and clean and lights on and all the heat and all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't just pay staff who do stuff. It has an impact on people. When you support the church financially, what you're actually supporting is things like people being able to gather on Sunday morning, yes, but you're also supporting things like people being able to gather on Sunday morning and have coffee afterwards. Do not diss coffee after church. It is an important social time, and it is, for lots of people, it's a very important time not just to interact with other people and socialize, but quite often there are conversations that are important and creative that happen in those moments. Keeping the building open means that other groups in the community can use it. And things can happen here. Community kitchen can happen here. Tops in Ponoka can happen here. Even people who want to have birthday parties, but they don't have big enough space and they can't really afford to rent a hall, that can happen here. Movie nights can happen here. Dinner and a movie nights can happen here. Do you know how much it costs to take like a family of 4 or 5 to a movie in a theater? But we can provide that here. Not to mention the whole you don't have to travel thing. I know you're thinking that's just socializing, but is it? You're also supporting children's programs during the summer. You're not only supporting children's programs in the summer so that they can learn about Jesus and they'll grow up and want to go to church. That's not what we do. What we do is provide an opportunity for children to learn some things with each other, things that are important about their lives and where they can find God in their life. And for some of the kids who come to that summer program, by the way, for which there's a fee to register, we quite often waive the fee because we know we need to. You provide for that too. You provide for opportunities for people to gather together just to have conversation about important things. And that could be Bible studies. It could be a book study. It could be the internet cafe. An opportunity not only for people to get together to connect, but also to figure out how they connect with people through the internet and electronically. People even just sometimes come in to chat, but sometimes they bring their phones in. There's a little bit of a problem. I don't know how this works. Well, we can help you with that. All of those things, that's not even the long list. That's a really short list. But all of those things provide opportunity for connection and building relationships and doing what? Creating community. That's really what it does. And when you give time to something, to support something, even if it's just a dinner or something, some kind of an event, we're providing not just an opportunity for people to get together, but for an opportunity for people to build relationships. That's what we're doing. We're being part of the community. I could give you a list of the things that we do that you support financially, that people give their time to, that people give their talents to. I surely could. But here's the thing, especially right now in this sort of, I know we can't really even call it post-pandemic world, but the world in which we find ourselves right now, what we really need is the engagement of people who aren't just bringing money or time or talents, but ideas and creativeness. To me, real stewardship isn't just, here's some money, go and do that, or I can help you out with that as long as I don't have to take the responsibility of being in charge. It's more than that. It's you bringing something that you're passionate about and saying, hey, we should do this. This should be good for the community. Or bringing an idea that you've heard other people, because you've gathered with other people and had these moments of interaction, building relationships, you have an idea that people really kind of need this in our communities. Bring that idea. If you can bring some talents and some time and some money to it, even better. But bring the idea, because that's engagement. And that's the thing about stewardship, which I sometimes think we miss the most. It's one thing to stand at the front and tell you all of the things that are done because you support it, one of those ways. It's another thing entirely for us to be engaged in doing it. This is one of the reasons why we do Minute for Mission every week. And I love it when it's a video. In fact, I would just like to complain to the United Church of Canada that we need more videos. Stories are great, but I read you a story. It's not nearly as effective as if the person who is living that tells you their story. That's engagement. When we're doing really good stewardship as a congregation, as a community of faith, we're engaging in those things. Now, some of us may not be able to support things financially. Some of us may not have time. Some of us may not feel that we have any skills. Yes, you do. Don't anybody say you don't. Yes, you do. Because you know what you're passionate about. Now, some of us might also find ourselves, I'm not looking anywhere in particular, at that stage of life where we feel we've done a great deal and it's now time for younger people to take over. Unfortunately, in order to not look at anybody, I had to look at the lights. That was bad. But you know what? You still have advice and wisdom to offer, even if you feel, I've done enough already. First of all, you haven't, because you never can. Let me just say that in a very positive way. We always can. Always can. And sometimes that is wisdom and advice. Sometimes it's that moment of realizing that you got a bunch of people together, most of whom are under the age of 40, and one person is 70. And you realize that you have enthusiasm and energy and wisdom all in the same room to be shared. And that could be any of those people. When we work together, we can make things happen. Good stewardship isn't just about giving one of those things. It's engaging in the doing of the thing that you're giving to. I think that's the point of the story. Sure, we could simply look at this story as Jesus tells a story about how greed is bad. And let's be clear, though. This isn't a story about how being rich is bad, nor is it a story about how the rich person is foolish, because they're not. There's nothing in this story that Jesus tells that indicates this person is anything but smart enough to have made themselves wealthy and then prepared for their retirement. You know, like we're always encouraging people to do. Because, let's face it, pension funds, just saying. But we're always encouraging people to do that. There's wisdom in that. There is wisdom in that. Yes, there is. The thing about the story, though, you might notice, is that it doesn't indicate that the rich person did any work at all to acquire that wealth. In fact, the story quite clearly says the land produced for the person. And then the rest of the story consists entirely of the person talking to himself and saying, I will do this. I will do that. And then I will be able to do this. There is no mention of family. There's no mention of friends. There's no mention of employees. There's no gratitude expressed towards the land. It's all I. Greed's that thing that disconnects us from all the relationships with the people around us, with all the good that we could do, with all the sharing, all of the good stewardship that we could do. Let me just point out something else about the story, which is really kind of interesting that we often don't notice. The man is called to account before putting into action that plan. He doesn't get the opportunity to build the new barns. He doesn't get the opportunity, not just the eat, drink, and be merry part. He doesn't get the opportunity even to build the barns to put the stuff in. It's not just a question of judgment and being called to account. It's a question of you just don't know. That could easily devolve now into a so live every day the best you can kind of thing. Except there's more to it. Because Jesus doesn't stop at the end of the parable. He starts talking about our relationship with the world around us. He starts talking about how creation, if you look at creation, it's a great example of how creation doesn't worry about stuff. So worry less about stuff, and instead maybe look to creation and the world around you. Look to those relationships. Because where your treasure is where your heart is. Where you want to put your heart into things, where you have passion for doing something, that's where it's going to be. And I guarantee you that is not just for you. It is for others too. It's to be shared. It's good stewardship isn't stopping with those big three things that we started with. It's following through in the doing of things and being part of the doing of things. Because it makes a difference. It makes a difference to you, and it makes a difference to the people who are affected by the gifts of money, time, and talents that you have shared. Because not only are you participating in that, but it is meaningful to all of us. We've built a relationship through that even. I think that's good stewardship. By the way, you should all increase your givings on a regular basis. Of money, time, and talents, of course. 5% is a good number. I'm just throwing that out there. But 75% increase would be a really good number for creativity, wouldn't it? If we could boost, it's not just about the finances and the time and talents. If we could boost the creativity in terms of ideas that we might have that we are going to follow through on, that are good not only for us, but for the community. You are part of the wider community. You know, you live there. We don't just live in here. How we connect those things and live into that is good stewardship. And we need that. We especially need it right now because I don't know if you've noticed, but as we move further forward and hopefully put the experience of 2 years of locking ourselves in our houses behind us, it doesn't stay there. It follows us unless we do something about it, something intentional about it, to engage each other, to find a way to reconnect, again for the first time. I'm repeating myself now. But we need that creativity as well as the financing, the time, the talents. You all have that wisdom of what's needed. Maybe that should be the fourth thing in the list. Sharing the wisdom of what's needed. And being part of putting all of those things together. I realize this is an odd and unusual thing to do, but I'd like to read the scripture passage that we heard today again, just to close, but I'd like to read you a slightly different version of it. This came out last year. This is the First Nations version of the New Testament, an indigenous translation of the New Testament. It was prepared primarily by people in the U.S., but you may be interested to know that they chose the name First Nations version because they acknowledge that is a term used primarily in Canada, but is being used now more widely around the world. What's so interesting about this translation is that it's not just about language, it's about the culture of storytelling. And so the story is told in a slightly different way. One of those ways is that the names of people are referred to by the meaning of their name rather than their actual name. So, I definitely brought the wrong glasses. God, of course, is a great spirit. But Jesus, for example, is referred to as Creator sets free. And later in this passage, you'll also hear Solomon, if I can actually see it. This is ridiculous. Solomon, whose name is, stands in peace. So this is a passage you just heard. Much of it will sound familiar, but there's some things that will not sound quite so familiar, which I think, well, it's what inspired me to think about stewardship the way I've just expressed to you. So I just wanted to share it with you. Someone from the crowd pushed forward and said to him, "Wisdom keeper, tell my brother to give me my part of what our father left to us." Creator sets free, that is Jesus, said to him, "Who made me the one to decide this between you and your brother? Watch your step, or greed will make you stumble. Remember, one's life is not made up of many possessions." There were many people in the crowd who heard what he said about possessions, so he told this story to help them see more clearly. A man with many possessions had a field that was growing a great harvest of food. "What will I do with all this food?" he said to himself. "I have no room in my storage barns for this great harvest." The man thought about it and then said to himself again, "I know what I will do. I will tear down my old storage barns and build larger ones. I will have enough to last me many winters. Then I will take my rest, eat, drink, and celebrate." But the Great Spirit said to him, "Why are you being so foolish? This is the day you will cross over to death and give an answer for your life. Now who will get the goods you have stored up for yourself?" Creator sets free. Let the people think about the story. And then he said, "This is how it will be for the ones who make themselves rich, but forget about Creator's true riches." Then he said to the ones who walked the road with him, "This is why I am telling you not to be troubled about getting enough to eat or drink, or what to wear. Is eating, drinking, and clothing yourself all there is? Does your life not have more meaning? Look to the ravens, the winged ones who fly above us. Do they plant seeds and gather the harvest into a storehouse? No, but the Great Spirit gives them plenty to eat. Do you not know He cares even more for you? Will worrying about these things help you live 1 hour longer? If you cannot do such a small thing, why worry about other things? Have you seen how the wildflowers grow in the plains and in the meadows? Do you think they work hard and long to clothe themselves? No, I tell you, not even the great chieftain stands in peace, wearing his finest regalia, was dressed as well as even one of these. If the Great Spirit covers the wild grass in the plains with such beauty, which is here today and gathered for tomorrow's fire, will He not take even better care of you? Why is your faith so small? Why worry so much about what to eat or drink? This is what the nations of the world who have lost their way have given their hearts to. But your Father from above knows you need these things. If you will make Creator's good road your first aim, He will make sure you have all you need for each day. Do not fear, for even though you are a small flock, it makes your Father's heart glad to give you the good road. Share your possessions with the ones in need. And you will have money pouches that never wear out, filled with possessions from the spirit world above. For where you store your possessions is where your heart will be.